Welcome to Insider London Study Abroad Session, the podcast where global education meets real-world innovation. Today's guest is Michael Korn, founder of Quickscreen and a passionate advocate for hands-on learning, commercial acumen, and collaborative design. Michael's work spans across health care innovation, physical prototyping, and scaling hardware in complex environments. In this episode, we explore what universities get right and what they miss when preparing students for messy, creative, and commercial realities of product development. So thank you, Michael, for coming to our podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to have 6 challenges for you, Michael. They're quite straightforward. I'm sure it'll be easy to answer for you, and we can build on those if necessary. So we're going to start with, first, the primary questions is about career outcomes and employability pressure. So many universities do a great job in teaching engineering theory, but the so-called valley of death between prototype and scale seems to be where a lot of ideals stall. What real-world skills do you think universities should focus on more to prepare young innovators for commercial realities of launching their product?
Wonderful. The main thing that I think universities need to help their graduating students with is the commercial acumen, understanding how the world really works. And if they are going to launch a product and start a business themselves, they're really, as I did, it was a huge step to go from the university environment to the front of the commercial environment. Whereas had I got a job, I would have been cushioned by the graduate training program, and I would have eventually been client facing, and those clients would have been clients that are already interested in buying whatever the company that I was working for was selling. Whereas in starting a startup, especially maybe a hardware startup, you're inventing something new. You need to find people that really want it. And the realities of the commercial world are very different to whatever someone is going to experience at university, which is why universities are often the worst placed to teach commercial acumen, because it's just so foreign to the way a university operates. So the best thing universities can do, I think, is just throw their students out into the real world as much as possible, which I was lucky enough to do in my undergraduate degree. We did a lot of these placements, so I think that's a good thing to do.
Just a quick follow-up. I mean, have you noticed any particular qualities or skills that consistently help people make that leap successfully? Is there anything in particular, or this is too much of a specific question?
I think there are just some people that, for whatever reason, are more worldly. It normally comes from their parents, the way that they were brought up, I think, and maybe some cultures as well. Yes. They're just a bit tougher, and others, you can be very bookish and very academically brilliant, but not necessarily worldly and able to learn outside of a certain context. That's the trait that I think is a good thing to develop. Whether it's the responsibility of the university to do that or not, I'm not sure. Not everything is down to the university. Like, some responsibility is on the individual, is on society, is on parents. But yeah, that's the thing that I think makes a huge difference.
Now, definitely, there's ongoing a trend where we're talking with other employers, and something about the bridge between theory and practice. That's our next question, really, about one of the biggest discussions we have been hearing really is especially innovation education, is the gap between those two. And from your perspective, are graduates leaving university ready to apply what they've learned, especially when it comes to your field, prototyping, manufacturing, and scaling?
I think they rarely learn that. So often at universities, they're learning something that's more of a challenge to see how clever they are, as opposed to an actual translatable practical skill. The students who have learned the ability to learn are the ones that I think are the most likely to succeed. But they need to be able to learn the new task. So rather than learning for another exam, which might be good for some industries where you continue to do exams, and so the learning that you've learned at university, the hamster wheel, you jump off that and you jump on another hamster wheel, that's great. If you're going down this entrepreneurial route and hardware entrepreneurship, I think the best thing to learn, from my perspective, is to learn through doing. So to actually get up, get out, make something, make it again, keep making it, practically get your hands dirty, and then go and talk to people that try and sell it. So learn through doing the commercial side of the business and learn through doing the making side of the business. And those that have got that ability, that can, use 2 sides of their brain, or use the practical and the theoretical, and they do very well. And it's quite clear when someone's given a task, what somebody does, whether they actually just get up and start being active challenging it, or whether they sort of sit back and, a bit more passive.
No, this is just something we've spoken recently about with another employer in innovation, and about how much there's the personal projects you do when you study. It's some of course need that sort of a push, like if university designs a program, for instance, between your industries and the university. Now that could be great because some of course take that initiative. You probably were one of those people that took initiatives. I'm assuming, would that be actually something that could work? When you think about, to closer collaboration with industries on hands-on experience for those who perhaps are lacking in the ability to, start on their own, that initiative.
Yeah, it's not, for me, it's not all about being an entrepreneur, startup, inventor, founder. There are many ways to engage in that world without having to be the person that leads from the front. There are lots of these interesting companies and creative industries that exist, often around universities, that need people to come and embrace what they're doing. And so I think the students, the graduates, the alumni who are interested in putting themselves in different situations and learning from that are the ones that need to be encouraged. And the universities just need to offer that. And, it's only for, 10% of the students who are interested. I don't think you can force someone to do it. But if there's a twinkle in someone's eye, if there's a slight desire, I think too often the university will suppress it, will not allow that student to explore it because it's unknown to the university. I think they don't quite know what's involved. Maybe
Yes.
Creativity is a hard thing to examine and to grade. And so I think, end up stifling the talent that exists within many students because it just doesn't fit the structure. And it's not for everybody. It's absolutely not for everybody. But for those who want it and have the potential, they might not know that it is something that they could do. And I just want to, this is what Blue Garage is very much trying to present, this opportunity for people to get involved in hardware and startups that otherwise might not have even known it's a possibility. But once they see it and they smell it and they witness the other people doing it, they realize this is where I need to be. It was my experience. We did a university trip to California and I visited the IDEO offices in San Francisco. And I was like, shit, I never knew a job like this existed. I never knew this thing called design existed. I don't want to go to, this is where I need to work. I don't know why. I just felt a compelling to work in the world of design. So had I not had that trip, had I not seen it, I would have become a management consultant or something,
Yeah. Do you think sort of exposure, because you did travel and you saw that sort of thing, this is sort of a next question, but of standing out in that crowd market, because you do have that exposure, but, not many have the chance, working with startups, mentors, through university. So, not everyone can hustle and have the same drive and resilience and determination. Especially hardware products, they're quite hard. There is a definitely this as you said, this is a not for everyone. So when you see early career engineers or designers that really succeed, what makes them stand out, in your opinion?
There's a few things you said. One thing, it's not for everybody because not everybody has the hustle. I think that is true. And I think if you don't have the hustle and the drive and the determination, then don't pursue a difficult career. Pursue an easy career. And you can be incredibly successful in an easy career without any drive, determination, hustle, or even talent. You cannot be successful in startup hardware entrepreneurship without drive, talent, ambition, and hustle. So now, if you have drive, talent, ambition, and hustle, still doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And one of the things historically, you mentioned it, is it's quite an expensive thing to do. It's quite a hard thing to get into. I was fortunate that I got to travel and experience these other places. And had I not had the degree and other things, I wouldn't have been able to start it. Which is one of the things I want to break down, the barrier of access. So Blue Garage is enabling with currently we've got some support from Lewisham Council to run programs for people that haven't otherwise been exposed to engineering, design and entrepreneurship. They can come and learn. And even if somebody has got the education, just starting a company in hardware is very expensive, partly because you need to pay for a building, not just for your staff, but also for the facilities to make it, and then you've got to buy the equipment, and you're committed in the long term to something, and the overheads are huge. So Blue Garage takes that all away, and it's all shared. So you just pay for your desk, and you have shared use of facilities. So it then goes back to the core requirements to be successful, which is hustle, determination, talent, and ambition. And I want that to be the only thing that matters. And then with that and the right guidance and mentorship, I think that we will have a much, much greater chance of young people, startups succeeding in the world of hardware, which is hugely important because it's these jobs that become the manufacturing companies making products that are better for people's lives, made in a better way, better for the environment, and contribute directly to the local community by providing a multiplier of a ripple effect of jobs. If you build a factory, you create lots of satisfying, rewarding jobs and then follow-on jobs for the suppliers and the local economy. Much more so than if you build a successful tech company, which, it doesn't have the same positive impact on society or the planet.
It's great because we need more people like you to sort of we expose them again. I said it probably earlier in a way that it's about things you do like with the Blue Garage, getting the youngsters in, getting into the environment because they might spark an interest in things and they never thought about it. It's a real world learning, right? And I know I'm going to use probably overuse then like return of the investment, but it's about when students on early career professional step outside the classroom and they get real exposure to a business world. What kind of impact do you think does it have on their development, in that progression, exposure?
Yeah, I think just stepping outside the classroom and outside the whatever trajectory they might have. So you might be the child of professionals, and as far as you're concerned, you're going to, metaphorically wear a suit and climb the corporate ladder. Or you might be the child of unemployed parents or parents that work in I don't know, like work in a shop or something, and that's where you can see your future going. And so, but not many people realize that there is this world of engineering, creativity, manufacturing. Maybe especially if you're in London, where there aren't, so many manufacturing jobs and businesses, and also a job that is just purely creative and practical. I think until you actually see it, you don't know that you could ever be it. And when we do tours, yeah, the majority of young people that come and have a look around go, oh, this is a bit strange. This is like, I don't quite understand this. It's cool, but I'm not, it's not connecting with me. But there's always someone who's like, oh my God, this is where I belong. I can smell the grease in the metal workshop, or I can smell the wood chip, or I can just see the people, or in everything I've experienced, I was told that it was wrong to speak out and wrong to get up and move around. And I'm doodling all the time, but that's actually what everybody does here as a job. Like you're writing on the walls and you're making a mess and you're building things and you're experimenting. And like, I don't want to leave. And we just need the exposure, I think, to as many people as possible, so that the people for whom there is a magnetic attraction, it just happens. You can't force that to happen, but so many people go through life, they never see this. And there are some people from the corporate world, because we do events with corporates, and they come and they go, for some of them it's very foreign to work in this kind of like, creative, hands-on, collaborative, chaotic approach. But some people go, oh my God, I've spent my whole life in a cubicle, office cubicle, working in some big. If only I knew this existed. Or I want to bring my team here because I know that my team will think differently if they're around these people and they're working in this way. So the exposure is huge, and we're like one stop from central London. So we can be.
It's SE
13, SE 13.
Yeah, so it's just on the loop next to Lewisham Station. Very easy. I used to live there, so very easy to get there. Lots of connections, and something you touched on, which is the fact that people have detached themselves from industries because this country has deindustrialized and moved towards service industries, and the idea of actually making anything around here. Although London has had history of manufacturing, it's just that seems to be forgotten by now, and it's great to actually expose them to, Blue Garage and other hubs where things are actually made in this place. It's immersing yourself in the real business. Something that you can't sometimes get in the classroom. Sort of a slight shift. Things have been moving the last 5 years. It's been 5 years since the pandemic started. It's post-pandemic world. Right? So have you noticed a shift in engineers or makers that they care about? Sustainability, autonomy, or any kind of environment they work in. Have you noticed anything at all?
Yeah, well, when I started, firstly, the concept of being an entrepreneur was like very strange, very foreign idea. Dragon's Den had only just started. Now everybody's an entrepreneur and a founder and a CEO. So that's one big change, which is, I think has its pluses and minuses. but it's generally very good. Like I think it's possibly harder if you're employing somebody, but it's great. If you have an innovation hub and co-working space, there's one less barrier really to overcome. Is this barrier of actually saying there used to be a status of a job, and now the status is to not have a job. So and that's what I've been shouting about for the past 15 years. So it's had an effect. The other thing is purpose and impact and values. I think that used to be quite a soft thing. Again, people wanted the status of a job in a big company. That was the impressive thing. Now I think you have I don't know, maybe even a bit of shame if you work for a big company. You have to sort of apologize to your friends that, that's what you're doing. And the cool thing is to be working in an impact-led venture, startup, sustainability, social. I think that's, it's a very good thing and it should continue. But, obviously for these startups and businesses to be able to continue be impact-led and sustainable and whatever they're doing, they do also need to be viable, which is why I think it's just as important to be commercially astute and aware. But it's wonderful that when I started my business, the reason that I wanted to do something in healthcare was partly because I knew I couldn't go wrong. Whatever I designed and I was going to sell it to a hospital, I could sleep at night. I knew that I was going to be quite easy. I was going to be doing something good. So I didn't have to limit myself. And if I was going to make some new handbags, like my namesake, Michael Korn, it's vacuous. Really, I didn't want to slip down. Whereas I couldn't do that in healthcare. You were always going to, wherever the market was going to take me, it was always going to make lives better. So I think that it is good that more people, want to do that. I think that is, that for whatever reason, society has I think it's partly society, has put the pressure and made it cool to do something good. That's a positive change.
Whatever one's call is, right? Your purpose were different to your mates, whether they were designing a bag or designing, a product that can save lives. And of course, everyone has their own purpose. And the thing you touched on the work and life balance, because for many things like prototyping and manufacturing, well, you can't really do it from home. I mean, I suppose you could if you have a very expensive 3D printer at home, maybe you could do it. But many a time, like Blue Garage, you have to be in a place, right, to actually do that tangible things when you actually see it, right? You can't just prototype it on a CAD, whatever you use. I'm sorry, I'm just using terms I remember.
I know, well, I'll correct you on the terms, because actually the world has changed with regards to 3D printers. They are now cheap. So if you are making stuff...
Okay.
Yeah. If you're making stuff, you've probably got a 3D printer at home. But a 3D printer, you don't have that... there's not much you can build just with a 3D printer, okay? It sort of takes you down a certain route. You 3D print something and then you think, now I need to injection mold it, which takes you from making it in your bedroom to making it in China with a massive tooling cost and massive volumes. And there's a huge learning progress between those two extremes. That's what Blue Garage does. So yes, we've got 12 3D printers, but that's not the exciting part of Blue Garage. It's the textiles lab where we've got 24 different sewing machines. It's the woodworking facility where we've got all types of large space to make things with wood, and the metalwork where we've got welding and mills and like machining tools that you can really make proper heavy, strong things, all in the same space with a screen printing facility, a photography studio. We're building a bio lab. So now you can really get your hands dirty and really make advanced things without needing to leave the building, and with lots of people around you building all those things. The 3D printers are like a little thing on the side, but you historically couldn't do that, and you had to get somebody else to do it, maybe even somebody in another country to do it. So the distance between the making and the learning and the ideas would just be so long that it disappears. It can't happen. So bringing it all into one place, one big buzzing building, it's like it's amplifying effect on everybody here.
Just on a personal note, there's something that I've noticed with the younger children, and especially like younger people, that there are times, like you mentioned, like once they see things and they touch them, there's something they can use the senses and feel. They get more interested in it. Once it's in a sort of a textbook and they describe, even if it's a multimedia presentation, they can't really grasp the interest in it. The moment they see it and touch it, to twist it, to turn it, to put it in, to move it out, and there's something. So that's actually great that Blue Garage allows that. Things actually, we use our human senses to assess the world in things, building things, because that's what we've been doing for millennia, ever since we've started the fire. right?
Yeah, it's only literally a few years that our life has been consumed by a little lit up box that we swipe. And I predict that the future will look more like the past than the present. There's definitely been a regression in terms of human experience, and I think it's gonna, we'll fix that, and we'll have something that's more engaging, tactile, experiential, real. Possibly a lot more things will be manufactured onshore locally by people that we know, employing people that we are in our community, and we can see the pollution or not pollution that's coming from it, and it's just more meaningful. Like, why not? And we might need less stuff, so the stuff that we're going to have is just going to be better.
Yes.
And it's going to be AI enabled, empowered, but it's going to be more real and sustainable. And there's a lot of change happening, and a lot of the jobs that currently exist are in threat because of AI. So many jobs.
So would
But
you say this is just something you just thought about it whilst you were saying that? Like, because there's something I've heard recently about paraphrasing this, just there's certain jobs, especially in engineering and making things, that those jobs are not threatened by AI, right? As many of the sort of the low clerical jobs that might through AI. Would you concur with that assessment?
yeah, well, I guess that maybe the jobs that I'd say they're enabled. So I'm sure, I think that it's really hard to make stuff, but I think there's going to be a demand to make more stuff and better things in better ways. And so it's the AI will enable more people to be able to do that. Is there going to be an ever increasing demand for legal documents, given that AI is going to basically automate that whole industry? Probably not, So all of these firms or accountants that are currently paid pretty well, the city's full of them. I don't know what that world is going to look like in the future. Yet the world of making things is just like this endless creative opportunity. So the AI will enable it.
There you go. You heard it, folks. Just stick with engineering. This is gonna save the world. So there we go. But that also brings us sort of nice.
Yeah, the engineers are the people solving the problems and
Yes.
creating value. Most people employed in London are not actually creating value. They're just shuffling paper around to enable the value to be created. So I think that the efficiency that's going to come, partly just because the world's going to wake up and also because AI is going to enable it, is that there's just fewer non-value creators. And so be a value creator, like build something, make an impact. And I think that the future will reward you for it.
This is a good segue to our pretty much penultimate question, but about the sort of partnerships, because of course the people go through universities or higher education system or vocational schools in which you do have some of collaboration and you do collaborate. But if there was just you, in an ideal world, if you could design the ideal partnership between the universities and industry, say hardware innovation in your case, of course, what did it look like?
I guess partly what we've created. So Blue Garage has free space for the most talented, ambitious graduates, currently only from Royal College of Art and UAL. So we've just started this program and they get free space here. And within the space, they can do what they want. That's what I believe. The best thing I can do to a talented, young, ambitious, curious, creative person is to just say, go push the boundaries, build what you want to build, get involved. Which at universities, that's unfortunately sometimes not the case. It's pass these exams and make sure that we can see what you're doing. So I think that the relationship will be that if it's the ideal relationship between Blue Garage and university is that the most talented, the most creative, the most ambitious students can just come and play here without the restrictions of the university, but with the support of or the access to the research and development and skills, but actually they don't live there, they live here because this is their rate. This is where those people can really flourish. The bookish ones that want to pass the exams, they can stay in the university library and get there first. The ones that have got something different, they want something else, they come here and they'll flourish in a different way. So that's the partnership. So the trust goes both ways is what I would want. And that's what that's a true collaboration. You recognize the value that each can give differently for different people.
Specific challenges like engineering ones and physical product design, do you think collaborations between the two could really spark innovation, in your opinion?
I guess the exciting thing is to just try and tackle the biggest problems. The way we've set up Blue Garage is we've got the facilities for building most things up to a certain level. When it starts to get really, really deep scientific and technical, there are labs in the university that can do that probably. But if it's the general learning through making and this is a wonderful place to do it. And I would encourage the people trying to solve the next biggest challenges. Starting a business, and it's as much to do with what is the problem you're solving. That's probably more important. That is more important than what is the solution that you're developing. So yeah, I would want to work with the universities, with the best students who are the most ambitious, tackling the biggest problems that society is going to need solved.
Great. I mean, we hope that people from universities are going to listen to this. So this is perfect. This is a perfect segue. We have a question from our previous speaker, who is Sam Hall from Mixed Reality Rooms, innovator and entrepreneur, run many different projects. And he asked, as an employer, what's one red flag you notice in potential candidate?
So I think as an employer, it's accountability, it's ownership. And that's because as the employer, I own the company, but I really want the people working with me to own their role in it. So I don't like employees behaving, thinking, acting like employees. I really want people that just feel like this is something that they can take on, they can own, they can grow. It's that whole, like entrepreneurial mindset that makes the biggest difference, and that means that they're gonna be pulled towards the right decisions because they just intuitively will know what is the right thing to do because they'll be thinking from the perspective of what needs to be done. And again, universities don't always infuse that into their students. I think because they're often thinking, what do I need to do to pass the exam? What's expected of me? What are the rules that I can be in and I can't be in? And I'm now a student, I'm paying for this degree, so actually I expect you to give me a service that I want. So there's this entitlement. And you leave university with that entitlement and you go to a job and you have the same entitlement back to your employer. Just that doesn't help. Like if people can own the responsibility, the outcome of what they're doing, it will always grow. Their job will always grow, and they'll fly to the top of the organization. And then as the best employees that I've ever hired have done, they've left and started their own successful companies, which is, a wonderful thing to do. I want that to happen. So it's this constant up the movement of trajectory and energy.
Great. This is another perfect segue because I really want you you answered all the challenges perfectly, but the next challenge is for you to ask the universities the questions, because we touched on many different topics, especially the universities and that bridging theory and practice, especially engineering. So do you have a question would you like to leave for our next guest? And mind you, our next guest is going to be from university.
Okay.
Faculty leader, head of department. You imagine that sort of persona of a head of the university. You're going to ask them the question. Sure.
Oh, all right. Mr. or Mrs. Professor, head of the university. My question to you would be, what are you doing to increase access for your most talented students who are creative and need something beyond what you currently provide? What are you doing to give them the opportunity to experience that such that you will have a bigger impact out of the whole by enabling more people to find that place that is out of the ordinary? And specifically with Blue Garage, this is a very long question. I'm sorry, Professor. Very long question, but specifically it's from my perspective, the access to the tools and the facilities and the space and the environment and the resources to be able for them to have a chance at starting their own hardware startup business, which could eventually become a business that solves one of the biggest problems that our future generations are going to need solved, and will be new manufacturing unicorn business that the country needs to reindustrialize.
It's perfect. We will ask many of them. There will be many of them we're going to ask. We might, make it more concise and in a way, but you just hit the nail on the head there. So thank you very much. Again, thanks for sharing all your thoughts and insights. This was Michael Korn from Blue Garage, and we've got more guests to come. So listen up further for Inside London Study Abroad sessions. We'll be back soon. More conversations, interactions, both education, industry, and global opportunities. Until then, stay curious and keep building. Thank you very much, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Maciek.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.